What's going on, guys? Today, I want to bring this up. This live stream is sponsored by the Money Mindset Program. What you want to do is go ahead, enroll today. The link is the first link in the description, and it should be a live comment after the live stream. And you want to get in this if you want to go ahead and preserve your discounts for the training that is coming next month. So go ahead and do that, and I'll see you guys in a minute. All right, I just sold my third car of the month on a Sunday for cash. And one of the things that I realized about the car rental business, for me, I will say for me, not anyone else, for me, the car rental business was extremely negative. It was extremely full of issues. It was one of the worst experiences of my life. And I am now one, two, three cars away from exiting this business. And I have a feeling that I'm going to sell a fourth car this month. I have a feeling, just a little notion that I'm probably going to sell it next week or next weekend. And one of the things that I found out when I was selling cars, because let me go ahead and tell you the negativity that just literally came all over me when I was selling cars. Well, let's go further back. Let's go further back when I was in the car rental business. And this is the craziest stuff. Let me see if I can actually pull this up. It's going to be, I don't think I can pull it up. But one of the craziest things that happened was I rented a car to a gentleman and he sold my car 2 days later on Craigslist. And that was the beginning of the drama. That was the beginning of the drama because I remember, and I still have the text saved. And I was like, hey, what happened? And this is what he tells me. He said, hey, I let someone drive the car. And this is one of the worst things that someone can do to your rental car. If you're on Turo, hire car, whoever, if you have a car that is rented by the primary renter and the primary renter lets someone else drive the car, guess what? The insurance doesn't cover the person that's driving the car. What's up, Ricardo? Doesn't cover that. So he said he let someone drive it and then she got essentially carjacked. They took her purse, they took her phone and all this other stuff, which was a blatant lie. Um, blatant lie. Blatant lie. Because one of the things that he was in on it, and they actually sold my car. And this is when the craziness began. This is when, and I made a lot of mistakes. Let me just go ahead and say this. I made a lot of mistakes. I made a ton of mistakes. Renting cars from my house. Big, big, big mistake. These people, I'll talk about those people in a minute, but I made a lot of mistakes. And one of the things that got me was the audience, the clientele. And this is one of the things that I'm going to handle in the new training because all clients, all audience members are not the same, nor do they respond the same, nor do they act the same. And we had the worst clients ever. I remember this chick, and this is when I was really beginning, and this was somewhat drama-ish. Chick had my car, wasn't paying me, and didn't want to answer the phone. Then she got slick, then she got smart. And I remember I was talking to her, and I was like, "Where's my car?" And my leg was hurting. I said, "Someone leg." She said, "You need to go get that checked out." To sound concerned and considerate, right? And I was just like, "What? Where's my car?" So how I got my first car back? Uh, I called the police, and the cop called her. I did not file a police report on her, but the cop called her, and she told me the location of my car, and I had to go get it. The location of my car was a motel. Hands down, people who are living in motels, renting cars, it's just bad. It's really, really bad. It's really, really bad. And one of the things that I've come to know, and you know, that should have been my first clue to what I was getting myself into. Uh, I thought from the beginning he was telling a lie. He was telling Uncle G from the rip something didn't seem right. Pretty much, he was straight up lying. And I did not pay attention to the signs. I just didn't pay attention because I was about at 11 cars then, and I just went ahead and bought 20 more to flesh out my fleet so I can so I can buy data, right? And it got to the point where I didn't even answer. Like, I had a phone that was about this size, right? And this was the car rental phone. I hated that phone. Every time that phone rung, it was drama. It was just drama. And one of the things that I got out of this whole business, because there's going to be some good parts to this. Like right now, I'm just kind of going back, discussing all of the drama, all of the things that I went through. What's up? In the beginning, I was kind of flush, was kind of high. I didn't really understand what I was getting myself into because, I scaled my cars up, I rented an office, I had a parking lot. And one of the things that I found to be problematic was because I bought so many cars so quickly, my maintenance costs actually were quite noticeable because I would have a car that was like, I just bought this car 3, 4 months ago and it would break down and it would do something and I would have to have it towed and I would have to have it fixed. That started with a Porsche on a Turo rental. That started on that with that Porsche. The same one that got stolen. The same Porsche that the guy sold to someone else. And unbeknownst to me, because once again, I went back and forth with this guy, back and forth. Then one day I just called the police and said, my car is stolen. And this, once again, alerted because the car had a low jack on it. Didn't know the car had a low jack on it. And this activated and it let the police know exactly where the car was. Day and a half after I reported it, right? And, you know, they sold my car, which I paid 18 for it. They sold it for 14. Then I turned around and sold it again for 14 just to get rid of it. And then I went ahead because I was hard headed. I was extremely hard headed. I went out and bought another Porsche SUV, which, oh my God, I would get people who would rent this Porsche SUV. And if you're not used to driving a car that has power, you just don't understand that these cars move. And with the Porsche SUV, I had one, two, three people, four people who rented the Porsche SUV and ran over something and flattened the tires. And they would call me and they would talk, "Hey, you need to come fix these tires." And then this is one of the this is part of the negativity because I was like, when you came and got the Porsche, were the tires flat? Were the tires going down? No. then why do you think that I need to fix the tires when you're driving the car? That became such a curious because some people who ran over stuff, they just fixed the tire and they would put the wrong tire on. They would put the wrong tire on. And what's going on? Oh, the 750. Oh, his court date is coming up. His court date is coming up. So I had a whole bunch of people who were less than honorable. And this is one of the reasons because HireCar sent me an email and I thought they were in bankruptcy. I don't know what's going on with HireCar because I completely parted ways with them. I completely left them. And one of the things that I saw was the audience, the customer base. When you have a bunch of people who cannot afford to buy a car and they're renting cars at a pretty hefty rate, because I did not know this until a guy showed me. He's like, he messaged me and he says, I'm paying this. And I said, I'm not getting that from you. Where are you getting these numbers from? And he showed me in Hire Car, there was the rent that I was charging, and Hire Car had additional fees. They had additional fees. So these people were paying a very high rate for these rental cars. They were paying an extremely high rate for these rental cars that I was completely unaware of until he actually showed me on the phone what he was paying. So I would rent out a car and I would get 51, $52. My most expensive cars, I was getting like $95. And my most expensive cars, these people were paying $150 a day to rent a car. $150 a day to rent a car. And once I started to see this, and once sat down and started to crunch the numbers, I was like, there's no way that this is going to work for what I wanted to work for. It's just not going to work because it just cost too much money to rent a car. Between renting the car, paying me, paying Hire Car, terrible, 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 terrible business model, right? And I went through a lot of stuff dealing with these clients because once again, and this is going to be in the new training in May about your audience and your customer base. And once again, if you have a really bad audience, you have a really bad customer base, it's going to make it hard to be in business. It's going to make it real hard to be in business because one guy, he rented the Mini and he was telling me he had a friend that was renting cars and he's like his friend would put like not one but two car trackers in his cars, and I was sitting there like two. And then this whole process of getting the GPS kill switches, that was a process unto itself. And I found someone locally who could put them in typically in one day, and they really wasn't charging me that much. So I got that solved. And oh man, once I started turning off cars, because here's the process. You turn off the car, you're going to need a second key, or you're going to need to convince them. And this is where I came up because I would just turn off the car. I wouldn't call them and let them know I was turning off the car. I wouldn't do that. I would let them call me, and I was like, oh my goodness, the car isn't working. I am so sorry about that. Do this. What I'm going to do is have that car towed, leave the key under the driver's seat for the tow truck driver, and we'll get this handled. And I'm really sorry that this happened. And that worked like a charm until the people started to figure out that I was turning off the cars. And it didn't take long because there were some people who just knew that I was turning off the car. They just knew. And it was like, hey, man, I'm just 2 days late. Why you turn the car off? Can you hear what you just said? You just said you're 2 days late on my vehicle, which you're currently driving, which you currently need. You're not paying me, but you're upset that the car has been shut off. And this was one of the things that got to be a little on, because at one point they started to figure out, and then people would start to try to negotiate. Like, hey, one guy who ran over something, he fixed the tire. I didn't know, and he's like, "Hey, I'll give you the key back if you would pay me for the tire I fixed." After he ran over something. I'm going through all this to prove to you how negative this business was. This business was so negative for me. Someone else may do it, not have these experiences. I don't know. I can only relate what happened to me, what went down with me, what was going on. And because the business was so negative, because there were so many negative attributes, there were so many negative aspects, and to feed in, I was consuming a lot of negative content on YouTube. That in turn made me negative, made me very negative. And this bled over into the car sales because in the beginning, I was selling cars like a drug dealer. I was selling wrecked cars. I was selling, and incidentally, my better cars at the time, the car market was still really high. And I had a few cars that I sold, the Mercedes, the BMW. I had a few cars that I sold to Carvana for more than what I paid for them. So I got out of those really nice. And then as I started to sell more and it started to thin out and it started to drop a little bit, this is when the problem cars, the cars that were wrecked, I would have people come to me and they would drive the car and they would do the 36 switch checkup. They would look under the car, they would raise the hood, they would test the seats, they would do all this other stuff. And it always got into, we want to extra check the car before we give you the money. That happened a little bit today, but I got the money. They got the car. I signed over the title and I deposited the money in my bank account and I went on with my life. But one of the things that consistently kept happening was there was this one car, and this kind of goes back to the car rental business. These people would drive my cars until they were trashed. They would not tell me, oh, there's something wrong with the car. No, 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 no. They would drive it and 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 drive it until it was completely messed up. The entitlement mentality, especially from folks who choose to be lazy, poor, broke, makes for great comedy at times. Man, that was one of my issues. I had a blue BMW 335. The guy literally drove the wheels off of it, and I sold it wrecked because essentially I had it towed, and they told me the car was going to need a new engine because whatever happened, he did not call me or tell me there was something wrong with the car. He just kept driving it and driving it. And this was Mr. Gold Teeth. This was Mr. Gold Teeth. What's up? And I saw so many incidents of them driving the cars and the cars were messed up and they kept driving them, just kept driving them and driving them and driving them. And I was just sitting there like, because as I sit here and I do this live stream and I reflect, these people were untenable, unmanageable because you got this rental car that has a problem, but you're going to keep driving it. You're going to keep driving it, even though this car has problems. You're going to keep driving it. And then I had people who took my car, refused to give it back. The 740, they actually was hiding that at one point. And the only way I got my car back was when I filed that police report. That's the only way I got my car back. And he called me being aggressive and threatening because I had the nerve to issue a police report on him for driving my car and not paying me. This is the folks that I was dealing with, and this is where a lot of negativity came from. A lot of the negativity came from because at one point, and I'll tell you this, there was like 6 months I didn't sell a car. I didn't even try to sell a car. I left those cars at my office. Literally had to replace batteries because batteries were gone. And then once again, I just had such a really bad attitude. Bad attitude. Pretty much. Pretty much. And one of the things that happened was I feel that this business kind of depressed me a little bit because it was so many hassles from the maintenance of the cars, from the flat tires, from just so many bad things. Every time I turn around, it was always something. It was always something going on with these cars, with these people, with this population. And honestly, I felt that all that negativity seeped into me selling cars. Like when I was selling cars to Carvana or CarMax, I actually sold the Mercedes. And let me show you the Mercedes. Let me go ahead and turn this on. I'm going to explain why. Let's see. What was that? I think it was that one. Uh, convertible. All right. This should be pretty close. All right. Um, let's see. Let me see. All right. Here we start. Here we go. Here we go. Yep, those are the tires. I had a 2014 convertible that I was able to unload on, and I only paid 40 after taxes and stuff. It came up to 50,000. But I was able to sell this car to Carvana for 47. And I was so happy to get that. And this was the car that I had financed and then paid off. That was one of the better deals. That was one of the much better deals that I was able to get from under, and it was crazy. They got a totally different market, totally different market. No, the rental car business is not worth it for me. Oh yeah, we on your ass. That was hilarious. That was hilarious. Now you gotta once again you gotta look. Enterprise isn't dealing with this client base. Enterprise is dealing with customers like me, customers like yourself. They're because once again, it's the audience. The audience, um, the audience was terrible. All right, once again, and this is one of the things we're going to do in the new training in May and start talking about. If you have an audience of Pookies, Ray Rays, Rihannas, Aishishas, these people don't care. They simply do not care. They do not care. And once again, I was dealing with a very bad customer base. I don't have it, but At one point I had 20 people arrested for renting my cars, keeping my cars, not paying for it, and ignoring me when I messaged them. And they were getting arrested left and right. A lot of their court dates are coming up. And th- please answer this. What would consume a person to keep a car that they know isn't theirs, that they should be paying for it versus just bringing it back? These people absolutely refused to bring their cars back. They refused to do the right things. They refused to be honorable. They refused. They actually refused to bring the cars back because, like, it's like, hey, I can't pay. I'm bringing the car back. All right, fine, cool, no problem. You wouldn't have had no problems out of me if they brought the car back. But they refused to bring the car back. They refused to bring the cars back. Enterprise has 6,000 rental car. Once again, they're dealing with a different, like, once again, guys, it's the audience. I want you to think of people that you know personally that cannot afford to buy a car, they have to rent a car. What kind of people are these? Basically, if you get in the car rental business, don't or any business, don't cater to all these people with credit scores below 580. I don't even think their credit scores were 580 because here's the thing. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. There's a lot of car rental spots around here. There's a ton of car rental spots. Car, no, buy here, pay here. And some of them are like, if you bring us 500 bucks, you can roll out with a car. You can roll out with a car. So one of the things, and this was an error on my part, I went out and got some nice cars that some of these people actually tore up the cars. Um, it's kind of crazy what happened with some of these cars. That's so far back, the car pictures when I go in my photo album because they're not at the top. They're way, way back at the bottom. And like I said, I've healed. I've healed from this or onerous experience. And once again, this was with the car rental company by the name of Hire Car. This was not like with Toro, and I was on Toro, but I didn't rent out that many cars on Toro. Toro people just don't think they knew they could get arrested for keeping the rental. Ignorance is bliss. That's what I think. I don't think they thought they could get arrested. And they were just going to keep my car and drive the wheels off of it and not pay me. Man, it was beyond crazy. It was beyond crazy. So I feel that this car rental business actually kind of jumped into my sales process because, I was just so sick of this business. People bringing the car back on E, not a little low, not on a quarter tank. I'm talking about one car that someone brought back. I went in there and I barely made it to the gas station. And the gas station was 2 miles away. Barely made it to the gas station. You were dealing with the people of the city. I met them during my cable guy days. Who are the people of the city? Who are the people of the city? And this really deeply impacted how I went forward. It deeply impacted how I looked at the car rental business. And like I said, I'm healed up now. I'm back to myself, which is why I'm selling cars because the car I sold today, and let me give you the story. It was someone who had contacted me on I think the 15th. Let me see, when did he contact me? He contacted me the first time April 15th. And I once again I got back into my sales mindset. I got into how to negotiate. I kept up with this guy. Everyone that messaged me, I sent them good mornings. Can you come look at the car today? Can you do this, do this? Very polite, very friendly, very helpful, because that element of the sales process was missing because I was so stressed out, pissed off, and I just kind of got out myself. Then in the reality check after the rental business was amazing. We can all learn from it, from human behavior in our economy. It was something that was kind of rough. It was really, really rough dealing with this. But for some reason, I woke up and I was like, you got to get better. You got to get better. The the problem was location. You cannot do a business like that in ATL. I have to do what people with sense of morale. It wasn't the location, man. I had other hire car owners in other parts of the country reach out to me and like, man, they were having the same thing. It wasn't just Atlanta, it was the population. It's a segment of society. Number one, these people could not buy a car. Number two, these people had extremely bad credit. Number three, these people were extremely poor. Number four, these people were ghetto. There was a lot that would go on in that. And, it wasn't the location. This, like, let me just show you something. Let me show you something. Okay. Let me go ahead and bring that in. All right, hire car rentals. All right, so let's go into it. You don't really see a lot of information about hire car. Look what you see. My car was damaged on a hire car rental. 394 views. Get around Turo hire car. You don't see a lot of videos about hire car. Let's see. This guy, he was doing hire car, like
And the transmission was so.
Justin Brubaker. Let me show you what happened to Justin Brubaker. He stopped making videos 2 years ago. He was doing all of these hire car rentals, right? Then he went to Instacart. Then he went to let's see. Is he actually doing this video with anyone? Can't tell. Then he went to Instacart and he went to Instacart. Then he just stopped making videos. He just stopped making videos. The hire car business literally broke this dude. Broke him in half. Broke him in half. So let's kind of go back. And not that many videos on hire car. Not that many. Because there's not a lot of people who are doing videos on hire car. Now, Toro, there's like a million videos. But once again, you consistently see negative videos on hire car and the customers were just trash. The customers on a hired car were literally just trash. The bottom feeders of society. The DoorDash, the DoorDash Uber people wasn't that bad. I remember you said one woman kept paying you on time because she was part of the gig economy. The people who were gainfully employed and consistently working usually paid their rent. But once again, the rent was too high, man. The rent was too high. I mean, well, he made a few videos where he had a few incidents. And do you think it broke him mentally more than financially? He only had a handful of cars, but he started to have problems. And see, once you start to have problems with hire car, they mount, because this is another mistake I made. Because this is me being the business person. When I went ahead and sat down and I planned all this out on paper and I wrote my goals and stuff on paper, it looked great. But the thing that was missing from the paper was, who was I renting to? Because, if I had really sat down and thought about it, I probably would have never gotten the business, because I don't rent cars. I just don't. And, it's a difference between taking a vacation to Las Vegas and renting a Porsche because you're in Vegas and you want to live it up. That's totally different. But renting, it was crazy. And like today, I'm down from 31 cars to three, three more cars. And I have a feeling I'm going to sell another one. I just have a feeling, because once I get them all sold, then I have to make the decision if I'm going to keep the office. I did not know that people were killed. That's crazy. You had 30 roll hand. I was trying to make it into a real business. I think a major problem was you let them know who they were renting from. What I mean by who, I mean nationality. We tend not to respect our own. Had a lot of problems with that. A lot of problems with that. Because Mr. 740, that whole process was very eye-opening, was very timely. Because when I went through that whole process and I was having these issues with these people, it left a scar, man, because I have never been in a business so heinous as that business, and I didn't have all of these issues. Because like today, one of the things that you have to do when you want to sell some stuff to someone online is be attentive and be on point. I actually wasn't doing that. I actually completely sucked at selling cars. I knew what to do, but I just wasn't doing it because I was just so disgusted. And I reached a point where I had to get over myself and actually do the things I needed to do to sell these cars. Because, man, it was really, really bad at one point. It was really, really bad. And now I'm three cars away from being completely out of this business. And then I got to sit around and think, what am I going to do with this office that I have, that I had to rent because I needed the parking lot? I needed the space to park the cars. I needed a place to meet people. Because one of the things that happened, one guy saw me drive up in the Porsche and give him the keys. And I had nothing but problems out of this person, nothing but problems out of this person. And one of the things that really, really bites is how many of these cars the renters jacked up. I mean, fortunately, the car today wasn't jacked up. and the other car I have on the lot. And I got two cars in the shop, and I need to get on them to get those fixed because I can't sell them until they're repaired. And one of the things that I consistently see and feel with this whole business, because, when it was on and popping, when it was hot, a lot of us was like, hey, we're going to make this money. We're going to go out here and be these entrepreneurs. We're going to serve these people. We're going to get this money. It's an audience. I'm going to call it the fried chicken and collard greens audience. If you're not serving fried chicken and collard greens, they're not going to eat. They're just not going to eat. And, this whole dive and expose into this whole car rental business exposed me to a lot, because typically I don't deal with those people on a normal, regular, everyday basis. I just don't deal with them. And the selling, man, the selling of the cars, sometimes when I would see who would show up, I would cuss. I would cuss because I have sold cars to white people, not one issue. I've had white people show up, drive the car, okay, and hand me the money. And then I've had Asian people. I sold a wrecked car, another wrecked car that a renter had wrecked because he was driving too fast. I sold this car for $5,000 wrecked to an Asian guy. And then I sold to a lot of Hispanics. I've never had the problem. Like, look, I will tell you, one of the problems I had was with black folks. Let's see. This one guy in Texas was killed trying to get his Hellcat back from a renter. Go figure. I'm not surprised of that. I used to manage 3 hotels in 3 different states, and every time we saw me, they thought everything was free. And when I said no, sometimes it got so bad I had to call the cops. Good Lord. I mean, that was my biggest hassle. Like, let me explain to you what happened with an X5. I had a 2009 X5, had this black couple, and every time people get out the car with the car checker and the charger and stuff, and they offered me 5,500, and I was asking 9,000. And then the dude got mad and started cussing me out and stuff on Facebook. I had to block him. This same X5 that they were trying to get for 5,500, I end up selling for $9,000. Same car. Who would I sell it to? Some white people. And I was just sitting there like, and I had so many issues with this one girl. She came and looked at the car and she drove it and she says, fine, I want to have my mechanic check it out. And at that point, I started cussing, because once we have to go out and get someone else to show up, it typically doesn't happen, because the white people, they brought their mechanic with them when they came to check out the car, which makes sense. And I knew that I would never hear from this chick again. I knew I would never hear from her again. And I didn't. I didn't. You were having problems with ninjas, not black folks. Okay. Whatever way you want to break it down, because this was a consistent issue. This was a big problem when selling the cars, because like I said, I've sold to Asians, I've sold to white people, I sold to Hispanics, I've sold to Indian people, and it was always a big issue when it was not always. There was one gentleman, the same car this girl looked at, who needed her mechanic to look at. I sold it to a brother, but he wasn't a normal brother. I could tell by the way he spoke. And I drove it to his mechanic to check it out. His mechanic looked the car over, said it was fine. He bought it. No issues. No issues. None of this stuff. No issues. None of this derogatory stuff. None of this derogatory stuff. And one of the things that I saw, because the whole element of, I'm so glad that I got rid of all the broken and disregarded cars and the cheap cars, because that was an issue. Because they would look, and this is one of the things, someone would contact me from Florida, North Carolina, Texas. It's like, hey, I'm interested in the car that has to be towed. They would do that all the time. And now I'm rid of all those cars. And this BMW that I sold today, I am so glad I'm done with that car, because it was a diesel. And if you know anything about it, there's a delete and there was all this other stuff and all these other questions. And literally, I hated getting emails because everyone asked a whole bunch of questions. One guy today said, I would pay you X amount of money today. And then he started asking all these finer questions. Were the injectors replaced by the shop, or did the dealership do it? And I'm just sitting here like, oh God, here we go. Here we go. He's going to want to know the serial number on the license plate. And I was like, look, it's a diesel. All I know is I took it in and I have it serviced. And the people who serviced told me that it was deleted. It had to delete. And that's all I know. And he was like, okay. And I knew at this point that when I couldn't give him the specific and spicy information that he was looking for, he was going to go away. And that's exactly what happened. And the original person came back and bought the car later on the day. And that's just one more car that I don't have to deal with. That's one more car that I don't have to actually acknowledge or even put in my brain. Because, like, once again, like I said, I feel very strongly that I'm going to sell 4 cars this month. I got another week. I got from Sunday to Sunday, and I just have a feeling that I'm going to get rid of that car this week. And then I have 2 cars, and I need to get on them so I can get these cars out and get them sold. And then I got to make a decision on whether I'm going to keep that office, because once I get the car sold, I'm not going to need the parking space. I'm just not going to need that. So now that I have gotten back to myself, so to speak, and I've been following up, I've been doing sales process, I've been nurturing and stuff, and all of a sudden I start selling cars, getting rid of them. I think the buy here, pay here, all the dealership would have turned out better. Here I am with cars. I don't want anything to do with selling cars. And this is why. I thought that I was buying high grade, good condition cars, right? Some of the cars I bought brand new had issues. And if I was to get into the car business, that problem is not going to disappear. I would go to auction, I buy a car, bring it home, check it out, find out it has to have issues, find out it has to have things repaired, find out it has to have things fixed. I don't want anything to do with that business. I don't want to sell cars. I don't want to buy cars. Only cars I want to deal with are my personal cars that I deal with. I don't want to get in this car rental business, this car selling business, because for me, the hassle level is just too high for me. Someone else may be fine with it. They may enjoy it. They may like cars. They may like fixing cars and stuff like that. But for me, I want nothing to do with it. And once these cars are sold, I'm going to be thrilled, just thrilled, because one of the things that I'm learning is I'm good at selling stuff when I focus on it. And for many months, I just wasn't focused on it because the business was so depressing. It cost a lot of money to get started. It cost a lot of money to keep it going. It cost a lot of money to repair the cars. My insurance bill was like 25,000 for a year. 25,000 just for insurance. And that insurance, I just had to have that insurance to legally have a tag on the car, because here's the thing. If something happened with a renter, I could not use that insurance that I was paying $25,000 a year for. Couldn't use it. Now, incidentally, I need to remove one of those cars off of my progressive policy. And I'm going to do that while I'm thinking about it, um, because the cars were having issues and I had to have them to the shop, even though I did not have license plates on them, because some of these cars I thought I was sold, and I went ahead and turned in the license plates. Um, let's see, account preferences is because I got to go in here, and they don't have removing cars from your policies online. This is wild. Change your ID, review our terms of use, change, unsubscribe from email. I'm just trying to remove a car. I'm just trying to remove a car. I'm just trying to get rid of something. So I've got to go to the Google machine, remove a car from Progressive. All right, so there's a way to remove a car through the app, and that's what I'm trying to do. And let's see. Let's see what things we want to do. Account preferences. That's where it should be. I don't know. I'm trying to remove this car, and it is not giving me policies and coverages. Maybe that's where it is. And boom, boom, boom. There it is. It's going to be simple. Get to remove this car, and my policy should go instantly down. Save this update. So, all right. So, got rid of that car. It's off the list. I mean, one of the things that I'm looking at, because this was a really important lesson for me, is the effects of negativity. The effects of negativity. And because this business, for me, I keep saying me, was so negative that this bled over to other parts of my life. This bled over into some of my business practices, and this created um, a lot of issues. A lot of the black folks are skeptical and think you're in a financial bind or some kind of hidden problems and try to pass it on. So lowball prices are offered to see one takes the offer. Man, I had so many people mad at me because because I was willing to deal with it. That's just crazy. One of the things that I figured out quite early was that I had to, because when I started to do the auto check-in where I would leave the key with the car and check them in all of me, and they wouldn't see me and they would just be dealing with me over the phone, that went a lot better, because one of the mistakes I made was renting the car from my house. That was a problem. And another mistake I made was letting people see the cars I was driving, because every time someone would see the BMW or the Porsche, they would comment, "Oh, that's really nice. You got a Porsche. Hmm. And this would be when the problems would start. This is when the issues would ramp up. This is when the issues. And what I have learned as an entrepreneur is I cannot let negative things bleed over into my business life. And because I didn't buy these cars on credit, I didn't have car payments to pay. I was in a position to be somewhat lackadaisical in getting rid of them, because at one point I turned all the tags in and I took the insurance off of them, because I wasn't driving them and they were just sitting. So, only reason that I put insurance on some cars, I had to have a car looked at and I had to drive it. And I was like, all right, let's do the worst case scenario. You can spend a few $100, get yourself covered with insurance. So if you get pulled over, you're covered. And the tag, that's an easy ticket to beat. So only a handful of people came to my house. Once again, that was crazy. I will agree that was crazy because the Toro rentals, I did a lot of Toro rentals from the house. And then I actually ran into, got the office, got the parking lot, and that smoothed things out. Because when I was ramping up and I was getting more cars and I was buying more cars, I needed a space to put them. And my driveway can only hold so many cars before it got to be crazy. But one of the things that I learned is you got to stick to your process. You got to stick to what you're doing that works. You got to stick to the things because, like, once I calmed down and got back in my right mind, I started to actually do this business correctly and I started selling cars. Like I said, I have a strong feeling that I'm going to sell another car this week. I just have a real strong feeling because I'm managing the ads better. And this is something else too. This is something I learned from Craigslist. And this is one of the reasons I'm selling these cars now. I don't list the cars and just let the listing sit. Every morning I wake up, I pull the listing down off Craigslist, which is $5. And every 7 days, I pull the listing down from Facebook and put up a new listing. Now, Facebook is more challenging because with Craigslist, you delete the ad, it saves the ad, and you can just relist it like that. So Craigslist makes it easier. But Facebook, you have to upload all the pictures and all this other stuff and put the description in because you have to create the ad from scratch. There is no duplicate up there for you to work off of. So, but once I started doing that, I started getting more requests. I started getting more information. I started getting more people coming to look because I did a video that hasn't been processed yet, but I said, I think I'm going to sell a car Sunday. And I knew that I was really close. So I think I'm going to sell this other car this week. And for me, going into the new training season, even though it was terrible, it is good to see that old sales tactics still work. It's really good to see. You have to realize that there are cultures out there. You think crime is the right thing to do. You have people growing up 3 and 4 generations then being taught crime is their job. That's sad, man. That is really sad. And can't afford the insurance and proper payments for vehicles. Setting up a business, setting up and selling these things is a process. It is really, really a process. And one of the things, overall, did you break even, make money, or lose money? This is really interesting. I haven't filed my taxes this year, but because of the car rental business, I'm not going to pay taxes for probably the next 3 years. So the way that I figured it out, just depending, like I don't know what I'm going to make next year, but I'm actually making money because of the tax deductions. Because here's the thing, I bought these cars when car prices were really, really high. And there were some I could not even, the cars were so trash from the renters. I mean, I don't even think like these people think. These people would literally drive the cars until the wheels fell off of them. And, so I've literally got rid of all my problem cars. And I had two 550s that were damaged that I had to sell cheaper than I wanted to get rid of them because here's another problem. When your car has issue and you start going to the shop, they usually find more than what you think it is. And this is one of the reasons I just sold the car. Gonna rob depreciation, which is why having the business will save you. Oh yeah. This year in my mind, because I haven't sat down and done it, but in my mind, I'm probably at like 400,000 because I get to take the depreciation, I get to take the repairs, I get to take the losses. So we're talking about like 400,000, and I'm going to write on there, this business is closed because once I get rid of all these cars and stuff, it's done. I'm not doing it anymore. And from a business standpoint, having the business set up really saved me. Well, no, there's all kinds of deductions like my repairs. And I took that last year. My repairs were $180,000 on repairs. $180,000 on repairs. So you get to deduct a certain amount of depreciation, and you get to deduct the insurance, you get to deduct the repairs. So there's a lot of stuff. I got folders in my office, like sitting this high on my desk with all that information in it. It's stupid. It's stupid. So one of the things that I've learned is I'm not going to um, get into any more businesses like this. I'm just not going to do it because one of the things that happens is it expands your damage. Like fortunately for me, I had the money to pay cash for the cars, so I didn't have to go out and take loans. Like I would be losing my mind if I had to take loans out to get these cars and get this business up and running. That would have been a nightmare. That would have been a sheer and absolute nightmare. That would have been one of the worst things I would have ever done in my life. And because I paid cash for 30 of the cars and I financed one, it didn't put me in a hole. It just, just looking at all of the money to buy the cars, the money to fix the cars, the money for insurance. And it's a very, very expensive business renting cars. It's really expensive. Really, really expensive renting cars when you have a lot of them. And this is one of the things that I didn't see because most of the folks on YouTube have 5, maybe 7, maybe 8 cars. There's a girl, she does a lot of Turo content. She has like 20 cars. So there's not a lot of these people who had 31 cars. So once you have that many cars, your expenses can be stupid. Your expenses can be crazy. And, once again, I learned a lot. I learned a lot from my taxes and stuff. And because this year is going to be a loss, I'm not applying for any business credit where I got to show taxes because this year is going to be a loss and it's going to carry over the next year. The main reason not to do a business like this is big headache, takes up all of your free time, which is not what a person who already has money wants to do. I can agree with that because when I was in it, I was working 12, 16 hours a day between renting cars, getting cars fixed, dealing with insurance claims, there was always so much to do. There was almost to do. And that's why I literally shut this business down after 6 months. Because I was like, it was only going to get worse. It was only going to get worse, and it's just going to be. And some people kind of tweeted me and said like, this is, I don't know about this, man, I don't know about this. And those people were right because I was so blinded by the possibility, by the spreadsheet, that man, this thing could turn out to be something really remarkable, this can turn out to be something good. And it just didn't happen because when I ran my numbers and I projected the income, that was just on paper. And I didn't have the reality of who I would be renting to. That was completely a mythical element to me. And once I began to see who I was renting to, I knew I wasn't going to be in this business long. I knew I wasn't going to be in this business long because who you're renting to, who you're doing this stuff for, who are you setting this stuff up for? I, I'm just like, I'm not going to do this long term. And then when I shut it down, Hire Car had some problems. Hire Car tried to get more money out of me. And I told the guy in the email, it's like, I have stopped renting cars and I am not going to pay you this fee. I'm not paying any of this fee because I've stopped renting cars and I'm no longer going to use your company. And that was the last time that I talked to Hire Car. And that was the last time that I had any issues with Hire Car because once again, I saw that they had filed bankruptcy and everything, which it's not surprising because one of the big issues is you're dealing with trash people all over the country. These people who are renting these cars cannot afford to buy a car. That's a problem. That's a huge problem. That's a big problem. Let's see. Anytime you deal with the general public hands on, you will have problems. Could be. Uh, actually, I'm gonna push back on that a little bit because when I was in the storage auction business, the upscale garage sale, I dealt with the general public. I didn't have these kind of problems. I think it depends upon like let's look at the car. A car is really expensive, pretty much. A car is really expensive. So when you have something, a car after a house is the most expensive purchase most of us make. So that was the issue. These people could not afford to pay for a car. That was the issue. That was the big, big issue. And one of the things that I have learned, because, in the new training, we're going to be talking about marketplaces and audiences and database and all this other stuff. The audience will make you or break you. If you were a hire car, you can't vet the drivers. See, that's one of the problems. There's nothing that you can do to accurately vet the drivers. You can look at their driver's license. You can see that they don't have a bunch of tickets. Okay, that's it. But see, from a financial perspective, when I was running up there to rent certain cars, because one of the things that I did, I started to protect my nicer cars once I knew it was going to shut down, because that's another fear. At one point, 35% of my cars were wrecked. I had 12 cars on the parking lot that were wrecked, damaged, 12 out of 31. So that was one of them. And that's one of the biggest fears, that someone would rent your car and it would get trashed. It would be just totally damaged. It would be totally dragged out. It would be just completely messed up. So I protected my Mercedes convertible. I protected my Mercedes. I protected the Porsche. I had a few BMWs I protected, and those cars I was able to sell for more than what I paid for them. But the cars, the older cars that I didn't protect, that were just blown away, that was just driven like craziness, that's where I lost the money. That's where I lost a lot of money on some of these cars. I had one car I spent like 6,000 for. I ended up selling it for two. And once again, when these people come to buy these cars, they know what the market's like. They know what the economy's like. They're going to try the deal. And, I'm at a point where I was like, we're getting rid of these cars. We're moving these cars. And I cannot tell you how happy I am that I only have three cars left. Three. And I got another BMW that's in the shop. I got to check on that. That one is going to probably sell pretty fast because once I get it fixed and checked out, I can probably sell that. That car I paid like 7. I could probably sell it for 4 or 5. And then I have a mini that I can probably sell for 10. So, once again, it's just a bad business model from jump. Renting cars to broke people with bad credit and bad habits. This just is just a really bad situation to be in. And one of the things that I've learned, it's a mentality. They were pissed. They had to pay to rent the car, so they drove them hard because it was the only way to get their money's worth in their minds. Could be because I had a guy who had the Porsche and he ran over something and he wanted to say it was a bad tire, right? And I said, which tire was it? He said it was one of the rear ones. So you know what I did? I had bought brand new tires and replaced them. And I sent him the receipt showing him the date when I replaced those tires. And I said, it wasn't a bad tire. It was your bad driving. And that just started a war because one of the things that I consistently saw in that business was a high disregard for personal property. These people didn't have to pay it. Um, Once again, enterprise hurts. This is why they have all of these these gotchas. We need your credit card. We need this. We need this. We need this. We need that. Because they know. And once again, hurts. Let me see. Let me go ahead. And it's like stolen cars hurts. Oh, this is interesting. Hertz will pay 168 million to customers that's falsely accused of stealing cars. Hertz accused of filing stolen car reports. Dozens of the customers alleged that Hertzley had them falsely arrested. Man, this is a lot. Hertz customers claim the company knowing false car theft reports. False and customers resulting in arrest and jail time. Victims told the Fox 5 Hour team this was not a one off, but rather a systematic issue. Wow, that is crazy. Because if you didn't know, Hertz had a whole bunch of cars that were stolen, that they were alleged was stolen, and these people had paid or extended the thing with Hertz. It's a travesty. It is essentially a travesty of people out here who don't understand what they're getting into. But all of the people that I had arrested, they actually made off with the car and they got arrested in the car. And then I had to go to the tow yard to get the car, which was crazy. I had to consistently go to these tow yards to get cars, to pick up cars. That situation with Hertz has been going down at least for the last 4 years. In my opinion and experience, they resented you of all people having the nerve to be able to own cars they could not afford, so they had to teach you a lesson in their minds. I feel a lot of that came into play. I feel a lot of that came into play. I feel that was one of the issues that I had so many problems because every time I turn around, it was like problem after problem after problem. But once again, I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson and I got out the business and I have calmed down and I have come back to a normal mentality because one of the things that I have consistently seen is people are not respectful of other people's properties, just not respectful. And, it was really, like I said, been an important lesson because I have learned that the old sales techniques, old sales prospects, they still work because like I said, I am moving these cars out. Like you said, it's a simple disregard and disrespect. People don't care. It's not coming out their pockets. That's sad. Pretty much. Pretty much. And for me, and so get on this new coursework as I get on these new things, it is really good to see that my old sales training is still effective and it still works. And I can still make a big difference with people because, you know, and this is my mindset. When I was in the business, I wanted to go out and get the best cars I could for the people because I was like, if I'm going to rent someone a car, I want them to have the best car. Man, all those cars were damaged. All of those cars were damaged in some way. And the least damaged cars were the cars that I protected. And all the cars were damaged. And I still have the GPS kill switch trackers on. And whenever someone's speeding, I get an email message, and I'm sitting there like, "This is crazy. This is crazy." Because one of the things that I have come to realize and I've come to understand is, as a business, once you put your products and services out there, they're out there. And I've learned so much from this whole process. I've learned so much, and I'm going to do what I can to blow out these last 3 cars, get them sold, and then move on to the next thing. Because I have learned a lot. I have learned a lot. Like, once again, it isn't that I didn't know what to do. I honestly was not in a mental place to do the things I needed to do to sell these cars quicker. Because there's just been, and there was like no tax season. I did not get a bunch of interest in tax season. And here's another issue I had: the cars were sitting, they were breaking down in the parking lot. They were literally having issues. I would go start one up, check engine lights on. This light's on, that light's on. And I'm just sitting there because these people, when they buy these cars, they scrutinize them. They open up the hood, they look at everything, they look at the dashboard, they have all these questions and stuff. And literally my new plan was, once, I did this yesterday. I got in the car and I drove for 30 minutes to keep the battery charged up. That would keep it, I think, good for 2 weeks, but I'll just do it once a week to make sure that I don't have any issues with the battery, and I'll know what the car condition the car is in and what's going on with it. Goes back to the point of, if you were white in your cars and you personally would have been treated with the utmost respect. Could have been. It could have been. But this is a trashy, trashy lesson that I have learned. This is something that I have gotten out of my system, because now it's out of my system. At one point, if I saw a phone like this, I would start cussing because this was my car rental phone. I would lose my mind, man. I would lose my mind. And one of the things that I have consistently seen is, because I had a lot of people reach out to me, email us like, "Hey man, I'm doing this and I'm having the same issues," from Chicago, from California, from Texas. All these people are having the same issues, but people were not talking about hire car. I have to say hire car. This was not Toro, but it was hire car. And I would consistently see these issues and have these things. But once I got back to myself and once I got out of the negative patterns and I began to use traditional sales methodology, traditional sales tactics, start selling cars, start selling cars. So once again, I do feel that I'm gonna sell another car this month, and I'm going to be down to 2 cars probably by next weekend, and get them out and then get them listed and sell them real quick and be out of this car rental business completely, not have any more stuff that's going on, and just do these things because, the reason I did this stream is I just sold that car. I just sold that car today. And that's why I'm doing this live stream. Man, I would not want to live in the neighborhood full of those kind of people. And, And many people say I do because I live in Buckhead. Many people say I do, but once again, things are changing around here. Things are really, really changing. So it's gotten a lot better lately. But, you know, the effect of having an organic and traditional sales process, it's proven to be very helpful in needy times like this. It's proving to be quite significant. It's proven to be quite the winning ace because, man, I can tell you from the things I had going on a few weeks ago into what I got going on right now, it's 100% different. It's 100% better. I have a better attitude. I have a better thought process. I have a better mindset. So that's one of the things it's going to do. All right. So if you have not gotten the money mindset course, do so because this is going to be really, really important for next month. So if you're not enrolled in the money mindset course, which is going to be in the first link under the description, and it should be in the comment section after I end the live stream, go ahead and get that. Go ahead and get that. Could have been, could have been. But that's all I got, man. And I will see you guys in the next one. Have a good day. And thanks for joining me.